Bridge Bhushan booked for sexual harassment is something that happened yesterday. We did cover it up. But there's a different angle over here. I'm just going to quickly read it. It says Sakshi has flagged concerns on retraction by the minor. She says she's heard of some threats that are doing the round. So Sakshi, Malik over there with those particular heard of threats, concerns over retraction by the minor. Also, there's a real nice Express interview. Indian Express has done a special interview with Ravichandran Ashwin. He says, I should have never become a bowler. Teammates were friends, now we're colleagues. It's going to be an interesting read. But right below that, something that does need our attention at this point in time is Manipur, where, like I iterated before, trust and ration and faith in the administration, all of these things are in very short supply. Even as trucks with Assam Rifles' stocks that have been blocked on the highways. So that resistance that the army personnel are feeling on the ground is not something new. And what's more, Union Minister Ranjan Singh's house has been set on fire by mobs. Not suggesting this is a Methi community doing, this is a Kuki community doing. These are people's doing, this is the mobs is doing. There is no law and order in Manipur, is there? How do you even talk about a peace process? Again, the question will come. Again, people will talk about president's rule. Again, the sun will go down, the sun will come up, the violence won't stop. The hill state has been ensnared with fresh violence. Take a look at those visuals from the house. Fortunately, the man himself, the minister, wasn't in the house. He was in Kerala, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. But, I don't know what's happening in Manipur. What's the way out over here?
Well, the situation in Manipur is very concerning, and as you rightly pointed out, let me take you to some of the online headlines that are there right now, and most of them have taken up this story because it's happened in midnight. Most of the papers couldn't cover it up, but this is what most of the online headlines are saying, that Union Minister's house set on fire by 1,000-strong mobs. Okay, the house of Union Minister was attacked by a mob of over 1,000 people in Manipur last night, in the latest incident of violence in the northeast state, which has been witnessing clashes between two groups over the demand for inclusion of scheduled tribes or the ST category. Union Minister RK Ranjan Singh was not in his house in Imphal at that time of the incident, is what officials say. The mob managed to reach the minister's house in Kongba despite a curfew in Imphal. There were 9 security escort personnel, 5 security guards and 8 additional guards on duty at the minister's residence at the time of the incident. And a security personnel at the minister's house said that the mob threw petrol bombs from all directions during the attack. We couldn't prevent the incident as the mob was overwhelming and we couldn't control the situation. They threw petrol bombs coming in from all directions, from the bylane, behind the building and from the front entrance. So we simply couldn't control the mob. Basically, the house was under siege. This is what exactly happened when it came to RK Singh's house. 1,000 people, very less guards. Of course, you can't expect even the maximum, if I counted by my fingers, I think maximum there would have been 15, 18 guards. How would they stop a 1,200 strong mob who are armed with petrol bombs? Completely, virtually impossible.
These kind of stormings, we've seen that it can be instigated, but it only happens when, the pressure has crossed that particular mark. It has crossed the brim. And we saw the similar situation in Sri Lanka as well. You remember when the presidential palace was stormed? And this is not the first minister's house. This is the third minister's house in Manipur. The way it's been torched.
Exactly. Look at the kind of destruction.
The entire roof, it's come off. This only happens because the anger on the ground is paramount.
The anger on the ground has not been controlled. It looks like law and order situation is yet to be brought under control. And yesterday we were discussing about things, Kabir. Remember that we were talking about how...
Take a look at this. This little piece over here, Varghese. It says, the Manipur Chief Minister, ops have begun to find those involved in recent killings. I mean, even from the headline, and this is my personal opinion, it just looks like there's some personal vendetta that's going on over there. Nothing that was done for all the earlier killings or the violence. And now after 40 days, the Chief Minister says that, ops have begun to find those involved in recent killings. Security personnel, the state-sponsored security personnel, the state police personnel, And there's already a rift. They're saying that, you know, one community has a bias with the police, the other has a bias with the army. Security personnel patrol a violence hit area in Manipur. Now, the Chief Minister's words, the Chief Minister's posturing, what's your opinion on that?
Well, the Chief Minister's posturing is only creating more trouble when it comes to the... but of course, we should understand Biren Singh is caught between the fact that he has to restore normalcy on the ground. Because he's the Chief Minister of the place, the law and order is under his jurisdiction. He has to, in fact, ensure that. So he has to make statements like this. But at the same time, then we were asking that question, is Biren Singh decisive or divisive? And we've seen how him being incorporated into the peace committee of 51-member panel had already created a lot of issues when it came to people having faith in that panel to start with the peace process, and it was a non-starter. But Kabir, let me also bring to your attention to something in the Hindu. The Hindu has this thing, and I will ask the camera person also to focus on what I have on the Hindu. It's a very interesting article about how women are being used in this conflict. Okay,
The elderly, we were talking about.
Yesterday we were talking about the elderly women
as human shields in the front.
Exactly. Now this is a very interesting article. I think to understand what is happening, this is what it's written in it. South Manipur cut off as women-led vigilante groups block arterial roads. Women are being used in this conflict in such a manner. This is that South Manipur cut off as women-led vigilante groups block arterial roads. This explains how the role of women in this conflict and how they are being used as shields, how they are used as front persons in this. This is another shocking aspect of this.
Women have been, you know, strong support system in the hills. You know,
it is
from Himachal, Uttarakhand, all hill areas. We know the women, the kind of work the women put in, more than the men sometimes.
And here, I'm just reading some excerpts from this. The blocking of key roads of multiple locations has become a new challenge for security forces. The lack of adequate number of women contingents also posing a problem in handling the situation. So MLAs from the state have reached New Delhi. Women contingents, I'm just reading that one portion. The lack of adequate numbers of women contingents of the Central Armed Police Forces, that is the CAPF, or the paramilitary in aiding the security forces to handle women protesters is leading to delays in conducting operations and sending reinforcements to the affected areas. The Central Reserve Police Force, the CRPF, has sent women contingents to Manipur, is what the official has said. There is a pattern to these blockades. Whenever a village or a property is to be targeted, 200 to 300 women block the road. A mob that follows them then carries out with the violence. Even if the affected villagers make distress calls, the forces are unable to reach. The source said that on June 12th and 13th, when certain ethnic group villages in a district was being burned by another mob, women protesters blocked the movement of the army contingent from Imphal to affected areas. Army personnel marched on foot to reach the affected areas. Now, this is the kind of blockade. Women are being used as shields, and we need adequate
strategic,
very strategically planned.
Strategic war plans.
That is strategically planned, and it looks like, see, we think that mobs don't have, you know, a pattern, there's no plan. But here, this article, in fact, has opened my mind, which shows that there is a method to the madness that we are seeing. That is, you put women in the front, and then the mob follows, and the village is blocked by these protesting women, and the mob follows and does the rest of it. So there is a method to this madness. I mean, some brain is functioning for this kind of planned action. And they are saying also, there are the source that was in fact speaking to the Hindu has said, the source said two types of blockades were being witnessed. One emanating from the hills to obstruct essential supplies coming to the state, okay? And the other in the valley to stop the security forces from carrying out combing operations. Look at the blockade. One, to hurt the essential goods supply to the state that is coming from the hills. The other on the security front and combing operations in the valley area. So two types of blockades, each community carrying out with these blockades to hurt each other. There is a method to this madness. There is a method to this madness.
Well, is it, I mean, Is it that easy to read between the lines is now going to be my question, because this is an appalling understanding that you've drawn from those words on Twitter, Varghese. People, if you just type Manipur violence, there are a lot of people who are asking for and seeking international intervention to end the ongoing ethnic violence. Many saying that the governments aren't listening for demands of a president's rule over here. The Prime Minister isn't listening, and the Congress is, really exploiting the situation, really hitting out at the BJP government. Rahul Gandhi making the most of it, of the entire situation, saying why is the Prime Minister silent at this point in time? But seeking international intervention.
There is a reason for it, Kabir. There is a reason for it, and the reason why they are asking for that international kind of an appeal is this. The reason that they are putting forward is that when it comes to the issue in Manipur, it has been covered internationally by certain groups who have media channels, especially in the US and in Europe. They are projecting it as a persecution of the hill people over there based on their religion. So that is why you see the international coverage going up, and there has been appeal also made from the hill region saying that unless there is international pressure, there won't be peace on them, because they feel like a persecuted minority within Manipur. So that is the aspect that has been highlighted in this.
Well, what's going to happen of Manipur? I every day end the segment with this particular question, and I apologize. Unfortunately, I don't seem to know or understand or don't have the wherewithal, the capacity to understand the socio-economic fault lines over that. And I'm not trying to justify anything. People are getting down in the comment sections, really trying to hit out at each other. My only appeal to everybody is that this is a burning issue right now. We should act on it as a nation. Let really anger subside. Killing and violence is not going to be the answer. It is never justified. And the way that you're telling us about how this is strategically planned, and the violence is still raging on in the ensnared hill state, well, we can only hope